we've heard about like the 10x developer, right? Or the 10x engineer. It's like a common thing. But like the 10x creative is something that I feel AI is enabling. One person can do so much when they use these tools, especially when they start stacking them together, right? Maybe it's Midjourney, 11 Labs, Runway, something like Reloom, ChatGPT, Trinity for music.
Welcome, everyone, to the Probably Something podcast. I'm here with Josh, and we've got the great Nick St Pierre on the line. Nick, it's a pleasure to have you.
I'm excited. I know what you're going to hit me with, but I'm ready.
I took one of Nick's courses on Maven around Midjourney. And so Nick teaches cohorts of students how to use Midjourney, and it's a lot around prompting, and he's created these awesome exercises for people to get some good practice in. And I absolutely love the course. Tell me, like, how did the course come about?
It was like a natural extension of what I was doing on Twitter back when it still was Twitter. I was posting all these educational tutorials, like just open sourcing my process as I was exploring and experimenting with Midjourney. And Maven hit me up and they were like, "Yo, we're doing this big AI push. You want to get your content in. Are you open to a course?" Initially, I was hesitant because I was like, "Do I want to do this? Do I want to like pigeonhole myself into education stuff? Maybe I want to do something else." But I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna go for it. And I've been loving it, man. Like just the process of actually taking what I'm doing and putting it into a more structured curriculum has been like super, super helpful for me and just like my learning journey. I've been loving the education side, and Maven's been an awesome partner. I got to shout them out. They've been incredibly helpful. They have a great platform and have made this whole process so easy.
And Nick, when did you get into all this AI stuff?
Yeah,
Just
my
super
initial
curious.
touch point was with like the original Dolly, like the first
Mm,
version, but I never really got super deep into it because I just didn't feel like the image quality was there. It was more like
mm.
surrealist and kind of funky. And then I was also playing with Midjourney. I think my first Midjourney prompt was like July of last year. But what really got me was when V4 was released in December of last year by Midjourney. I was doing like freelance web development and stuff for some clients, and I had some projects that were finishing up. And then V4 dropped, and I was like, holy shit, I better figure this out before it figures me out. I could see the writing on the wall, I could see it coming for me. So I was like, I'm going to get ahead of this. And I ended up spending the whole month of January just going super deep into research mode across all of AI and everything that was going on. And the two things that really like captured me were Luma Labs, which was nerfs, and Midjourney, obviously. And it was like a puzzle, man. Like I had to figure out how to control it. Like I was laser focused and like manic about the whole process. It was like, when you're like a teenager and you're like obsessed with that one thing or like that music artist, right? Or whatever it is, that's your whole life, right? That was the first time I actually felt that feeling again as an adult, was when I had Midjourney and I started like prompting it and going deep there. It was just like so fulfilling. It's been something I'm chasing like my whole life, is this idea of authoring at the speed of thought. And it was like the first piece of technology that actually made that feel like reality.
Yeah, authoring at the speed of thought. I love that concept. I feel like that's what AI enables, like going from idea in your head to actual thing in zero time. So obviously there's competitors like Dolly, but with Midjourney, what do you like most about Midjourney, maybe versus some of the other platforms out there?
One, there's the team. I was familiar with David Holtz through VR
Mm,
when he was doing Leap Motion. I also had a VR company at that same time, Upload VR, and I like thought that what he was doing with Leap Motion and the hand tracking was incredible. Even as like a startup, they were building stuff that the Metas, the Googles could not even come close to. And so like that gave me trust in him as an entrepreneur and as a technologist. He obviously understood it. But then the image quality of Midjourney speaks to that, right? Without a doubt, have the highest quality imagery and aesthetics. And I think they also are the most creative, which is really compelling to me. But they think about the artist, they think about the individual creative who's going to be using this technology. They have no investors, they are independently run, and the controllability that you have in Midjourney too is incredible. There's so many unique features, things like remixing and image blending. There's just stuff that they do that nobody else comes close to. And they're moving towards 3D, where you're going to be able to prompt a scene, you're going to be able to move around it, bring the camera in, like nerfs or gaussian splats, some big buzzwords, but they're going to be doing their own file type. But I love that they're actually pushing the limits there and going into like new territory, not just trying to like stay and keep it with images only. Like they're really thinking about what the future of generative media is. And I love that.
I'm curious because you mentioned some of the people taking the class who were applying it in different industries, and that might be agencies or just individuals. Uh, what are some of the unique cases where people are using the stuff that's coming out of Midjourney? Is it mainly content creation, or are there other more unique ways that folks are using the technology?
It's well, for the course, it's a lot of people who are trying to apply it to their business, right? Which is unique compared to say like my general audience on social media. So people are like really interested in things like product photography or putting together mood boards or ad campaigns or like a pitch for a client. So I see a lot of that. And then character consistency is like another thing that keeps popping up. And
Mm.
Midjourney isn't the best at that right now, but there are like tools that you can use in conjunction with Midjourney to get pretty solid results there. It's a lot of previs, right? And concepting. So maybe I'm putting together like a pitch for a client and I want to showcase our capabilities and use media that is really specific to them, but I don't have the budget yet to necessarily go out into the real world and conduct a shoot. So you can use Midjourney to do that concepting and put together that plan of action and help close a deal. And this is something that I demonstrated fairly recently with a company called Reloom, which is another really amazing company. They started as a Webflow component library where they hand built all these like Webflow components and sections that are plug and play. But they built an AI site builder on top of it where you essentially like give it a prompt about your product and it'll generate a sitemap and wireframes that are ready to go. And in an hour, we were able to use Midjourney to generate the assets plus that tool to create a fully responsive site that sold an idea very well. That's powerful, right? The big thing that I try to get across in the class, there's this sort of new, we've heard about like the 10x developer, right? Or the 10x engineer. It's like a common thing, but like the 10x creative is something that I feel AI is enabling. One person can do so much when they use these tools, especially when they start stacking them together, right? It's not just Midjourney, but maybe it's Midjourney, 11 Labs, Runway, something like Reloom, ChatGPT,
Mhm.
Trinity for music. So, man, I'm curious to see what happens like the kids who are touching AI as like their first canvas, essentially, right? Their first creative tool, like that's a whole other world, man. The way that their brains are going to develop and start thinking about the creative process in harmony with these tools, that's what gets me excited. I think about
Yeah.
myself as a teenager and like how fucking pumped I would be if I had access to this stuff.
The timelines of rapid change are so quick because you were just talking about messing around. Your first prompt in Midjourney only being a little over a year ago. And so we're talking about teenagers getting access to these tools and that being transformative for them. But even for us, we're going to be using these tools for so many decades to come in our own personal lives. And with how much it's changed in the past few months, I just can't even begin to imagine what it's going to look like a few years from now. I had one tiny follow up question, which was around this tweet that you put out, which said something along the lines of The AI content that you produce is not AI art, or it's not your art. Does that ring a bell? And could you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I this is something I've thought about a lot, and it's like a common point of conversation online, but I kind of stand firmly that if you're just writing a prompt that generates an output, like that output, that image, that's not yours, right? You didn't do that. You wrote the prompt and it's your idea, but like that image isn't your art. Not to say that you can't use AI to create art, right? But it's about intent and it's about process, and there's a way for you to wrap a story and to curate a collection that I think you can consider art. But I myself don't consider myself an AI artist. I don't necessarily like vibe with that term. If you have to put a qualifier in front of it, it just seems hard. I think artist is fine. I get that people are like conceptual artists, or people say I'm a painter, I'm a sculptor. But like when it comes to AI, we have to be aware of the fact that it is a collaboration, that the heavy lifting for the most part is being done by the machines, not you. And the point that you can bring in to actually transform it into something that's truly beautiful and can be considered art is going to be like your own story, like your own authentic addition to the narrative, right? Like, why are you doing this? What are you trying to showcase and demonstrate? And you can also use it as a foundation to create art, right? I can take my imagery and I can turn it into video, and I could produce a short or something that can be considered art. But
Mhm.
yeah, like when people are just like, "Oh, I'm an AI artist because I write prompts and they generate imagery," it doesn't vibe with me, and it's never a label that I would put on myself. Not to say that I have no intentions of creating art, because I do have ideas and concepts that I wanna use AI to bring to life, but what I share, what I post is research. It's experimentation. It is not art. If someone wants to consider it, great, but I'm not minting it and selling you an NFT of
Mhm.
my AI generated image. That just is it's not I don't fuck with that.
I agree with you. I think these pieces that people create, it's like they're everybody. The way I think about maybe open source code on GitHub, it's like the code is open source. It's like you create these images, they're for everybody, right? And these tools, you're totally right. They're turning us into superhumans. Do you think people in the future will be able to create like an entire film, just one person from scratch?
Yeah, why not? How that comes about, I don't know. I would imagine, like, by this time next year, we'll have something from Midjourney that is at least 3D, and you can move your camera around and you can get different angles and perspectives, but maybe even, like, prompting dynamic action. And you're starting to see with nerf stuff too, like and like these Gaussian splats, like these dynamic like 3D captures where now like you don't just get this static like digital twin of a location, but like somebody can be moving and acting in it. Like we're not that far out from that future, especially at the rate which this technology improves, right?
One more question for me is around some of the other tools that you've been leveraging in conjunction to Midjourney. Could you shout out two to three tools that you work with on a day to day in conjunction to Midjourney?
Yeah, like the main stack on a day to day, I'm using Midjourney and I'm playing with nerfs. So that's Luma Labs. And then like Vectorize, as you mentioned, is a great tool for essentially generating any sort of vector image that you might put on a website, whether it be like an icon or an illustration. So Vectorizer is really cool there. It gives you some more control over what you generate. So it's a bit more flexible. You can play with it. Runway is great. I think that the Gen 1 stuff is actually more compelling to me than the Gen 2 stuff, uh, which is like the Gen 1 is where you can essentially apply a style over a video that you upload. But I think it's not getting the attention since Gen 2's been released. But I think Runway is still great, and Gen 1 is fantastic. Gen 2 is cool too. And then other like just like side ones that I think are really cool are Trinity, which is Grimes' music project. It's really awesome. Like they're creating this whole process of being able to essentially like prompt a full song and control it with things like emotion sliders and You can split the song that it gives you or the track that it gives you into different stems and then bring those into your own program and tweak and mess with them. So that stuff's really cool. 11 Labs is dope. And some of the others that are doing this AI dubbing, especially when you combine it with lip syncing too. I've seen some like crazy demos from companies that have reached out to me. But like that stuff's useful for me for like my course, right? If I wanted to take my course and then do it in Portuguese, I can just run it through AI. And not only will it be my voice, like it'll sound like me, it'll keep my intonations and my tone, but it'll also dub my lips so that it looks like I'm speaking in Portuguese, which is incredible, right? Because that allows me to get the course out to more people, localize the pricing to the region, and just expand internationally. And to do that without AI, it would have taken forever, and it also would have been insanely expensive. So I love that kind of stuff.
I love 11 Labs. I've used it for basically for projects, and then you can use it to like read your old blog posts. I actually used AI recently to create an entire audiobook, or excuse me, an entire book, and then 11 Labs to basically read the entire book. So it's crazy like where all these tools are going. And I actually hadn't heard of Trinity yet, so that's like I'll
Yeah,
play around with that. That seems sick.
they're still in alpha. I don't know if they're like open beta yet, but there's other like generative music projects that have popped out. Like Boomy is one that comes to mind, or Google is working on some stuff. But I like the approach that Trinity is taking. And I also just like love Grimes' whole ethos around this technology.
Yeah.
She's been
Yeah.
like, she was just like, all right, AI is here. It's like the day before we heard like the AI Drake track that was like Winter's Cold, and then
Yeah.
he like got it taken down. The labels got it taken down, and then like the next day, Grimes is like, "Here's my voice. Anybody go and make a track.
Yeah.
I hope that it's better than anything that I can do. Let's
Yeah.
build an album together." And she just went all in on it, and I love that, and I respect the hell out of her for that because she's looking at her art as something that's fungible in that way, and it's not just about her, but it's about like her fans, it's about her audience, it's about the people who love her work, and she's embracing that into her process, which I think is incredible, right? And it's a mentality that we can all really like learn from, especially as this technology gets more and more ubiquitous. It's the same reason I share my prompts, right? I'm not here to like hold the secrets from you and just post pretty images. My intent is so that you can go out and feel empowered in the same way that I do. And if I can give you a little tip that helps you along the way, then fantastic, right? But that open sourcing of knowledge and information sharing and just like art and creativity and process is so important. And I wish more people embrace that in the way that Grimes does.
Yeah, it's so cool to see her actually embrace the technology, right? Because this shit's coming, and right? So,
It's not going away.
no. So there's no point in fighting it, right? So embrace it. And now people are loving her for that, right? But just super curious, do you have any other courses that you're working on or any other like projects that you can share?
Something I'm working on is expanding to more like niche areas of focus. What we were talking about earlier, right? Like the things that people really want to do with this tech, whether it be like a product photo shoot or creating a website or like a campaign for somebody. So the Midjourney course that I'm doing now is, I think of it as like the foundation. It's the introduction to the tool, all of the features, the different things that you could do with it. And the next courses are going to be essentially building off of the foundation course into more niche areas of focus that are what I hear from my students as like the most pressing areas that they want to focus on. And then beyond that, who knows, man? Like there might be something else out that completely changes it. I'd also love to like just I think about prompting as like a whole, right? So maybe there's something for like 11 Labs where I can dig into like how to really use 11 Labs and like get the most out of it, right? How to get a better range of emotion from your prompts, like how to structure your language. So there's a lot of things that could be done there. But yeah, the starting point is, what else can we use Midjourney for? Like, where can we take this media and what could we do with it? And other tools come into the mix to make that stuff happen. Putting that into courses is coming soon.
Nick, thanks so much for sharing all your wisdom and your insights. Let's follow Nick on X. And yeah, thanks so much, Nick. Catch you soon.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.